Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to an introduction to FAST. My name is Trey Bostic, Senior Director here at DLT Solutions, part of the larger TD SYNNEX Public Sector. We're going to give everybody a couple minutes to join, and then we will kick this thing off. Appreciate your patience, and thank you again for joining us. Okay, it's a couple minutes after the hour, and so I think we'll go ahead and get started. And welcome to an introduction to FAST. My name is Trey Bostic. I'm a Senior Director here with DLT Solutions, which is part of the larger sum total whole of the TD SYNNEX Public Sector organization. And my area of responsibility is our federal agency specialist team, which is what we're here to talk about today. I'm also responsible for our sales development rep program. Joining me today in the presentation is going to be Zach Hebetz, who's also a Senior Director on the FAST program, or Federal Agency Specialist Team program, again, if you will. And we appreciate everybody joining us this afternoon to go through this net new capability that we've created and stood up here. It's about 6 months old in age, and I will move on here to our agenda slide. So today, what we're going to cover is we're going to meet the FAST team. We're going to give you an overview of the program, high level. And then we're going to walk you down through what to expect out of the program. And then last and finally, and arguably the most important thing for those folks viewing, what do you get? What is the program going to be able to bring to you as an individual working at the vendor level and vendor rep into your territories? So again, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. And our next slide is our Meet the Team slide. So we'll bring the pictures up. So again, I'm Trey Bostic, Senior Director here and the leader of our FAST program. The other four members of the FAST program group are Zach Hebetz, Senior Director, Marshall DeDegby, Sales Manager, Savannah Evans is Team Lead, and Matthias Zamora is Account Manager. And what you see on the slide here, just to give you kind of the high-level overview before we move into the more detailed overview of the program, is each one of the folks you can see is responsible for a certain specific group of federal government departments, cabinet-level departments, or agencies, or sub-agencies within. And one of the things that we would talk to you about here, we would point out is this is a group of about 30 of the U.S. federal government departments and agencies. We fully understand that there are more than 30. So we use these 30 as sort of our starting point for the program here 6 months ago. But if you see things or if you have territories that you're responsible for that you don't see on this list, please don't hesitate to reach out either to myself or Zach, and we will navigate you into the correct place, or we will create a tiger team or a temporary team to address the territories that you specifically need addressed. So move on to the next slide. And now I'm going to give the overview of the program. So our mission, as you guys can see here on the slide, is that we're a program. We've created a program that's managed by a team of specialists with knowledge of specific agencies, the relevant drivers, and initiatives to be leveraged within an agency to drive revenue opportunity for our vendors and channel partners. Now, you might say, well, Trey, obviously you know how to read, and so do we. So give us a little more detail, and I'm happy to do that. So from a granular level, what the folks that you saw on the team slide earlier have been tasked to do is to unpack and understand their assigned departments and agencies down to a really sort of ground level or grains of sand knowledge. We work very closely with our market insights team that's run by Lloyd McCoy, who many of you on the call are probably familiar with. Without that market insights team and the data that they bring forth, we would be exceptionally handicapped, and without them, we cannot be successful. So again, it is a very sort of sibling-esque or symbiosis relationship between us and our market insights team. Where they go, we go, and vice versa from that perspective. The program is really focused on the end user. Now, that's a little unique, probably, for those of you that may be familiar with us as a distributor, or maybe you're familiar with our larger organization, TD SYNNEX, which is 100% distribution based. We really operate this program, which again is our federal agency specialist team, as almost the perspective of being a value add inside of a value add distribution box. So almost a VAR within the VAD, if you will. And again, we're focused on the end users as we face back to our vendors and our vendor reps and our vendor sales leads. And the idea behind that is, again, to narrow down the focus that you guys individually are looking within your territory. So we're trying to trim the fat off of a specific department or agency for you. And when we say trim the fat, some of those things could be eliminating areas within a department or agency that you might be looking at, or you might believe is an area you should be focused on, where we could help you understand that there's not necessarily a technical requirement for your product there, in combination potentially with maybe there's a lack of budget for a particular defined time frame. And to that point around budget and also planning, and the way we assess and evaluate these individual agencies is we don't do it in a vacuum. We're not operating within a fiscal year. We're 15 days into the federal fiscal year 25. We're not just looking at fiscal 25 items. We've rolled out into fiscal 26 and fiscal 27 as well. And we try to keep that sort of 2.5 to 3 year lead or vision out on the horizon, if you will. Because as we all know in this space, things don't typically move in very quick cycles. And for most of the folks on this call or viewing the webinar today, you may perhaps be involved in enterprise level software, companies that you work for. And we all know those are not 6 to 12 month sales. Those are typically 12, 18, sometimes even longer if they're particularly true full enterprise type of sales. So again, what we're looking to do in our mission in the overview of the program is we're focused on the end user, right? We engage with partners as we need. So again, if there's an opportunity that comes up where procurement folks at the government customer want to go down the path of a DBE qualifying business, or we're very diverse in our partner ecosystem, so woman-owned small business, veteran-owned small business, et cetera, hub zone, any of the qualifying DBE businesses we are able to partner with, and we have a plethora of partners that fit the trends there. But we also focus within the departments and agencies and the sub-agencies within that you're responsible for as vendor sales reps on the priorities, the trends, the drivers, and the political landscape within each one of those things. So as we work with our market insights team, we really look at not just where is their budget versus where there isn't. Those are certainly relevant terms, but we also want to make sure that we understand who are the decision makers, who are the influencers within an organization. So if you might say, if you had a white space within DHS CBP, instead of throwing a wide net over CBP in an attempt to try to drive a meeting for you that's relevant to your technology and relevant to that customer, we really try to narrow that focus down where we get into the maybe 10 to 15, 20, 25, some relatively small number of government end users or government program owners, so that we get you in front of the people that truly matter when it comes to trying to get your technology sold within the space. And then what to expect. So we'll move along here to that slide. When we say what to expect, we talk about all things fast, right? Identifying your counterpart. Again, I spoke at the team slide around, if you don't see something there in the list, please feel free to reach out to myself or Zach. But identifying your counterpart means, with Zach, Marshall, Savannah, and Matthias, line up to the agencies and departments that they're responsible for that are also the same ones that you're responsible for. Discovery calls. We do an initial discovery call as part of all of our engagements with the rep that's responsible from the vendor side for the territory. And typically that rep's direct leader as well. And as you guys can see on the screen here, really sort of two elements that we want to identify right out of the gate. Is it white space or is it not? Doesn't have to be white space, i.e. meaning we don't just operate in a pure greenfield or pure white space environment with this program. Could be places that you're already in, where you're having some challenges. Maybe you feel like you could be stronger in that area with a little additional information. Could be there's opportunity for net new product lines that have been acquired by your company via acquisition or product development, that you need some help moving into and understanding who would be the people to do that. If it's not white space, then we obviously would like you to come with the details around what your install base looks like there, where you're successful within that organization, what the other things might be that are relevant to getting you a very granular deliverable. And then use cases that have resonated, right? When we look across, the government as a whole, right? There are many, many scenarios where within one department or agency, others within the government are also duplicating or replicating that. So where you have use cases, that really makes a big jump and getting out front of things. And we work on packaging that again to the correct people and understanding what you're doing. Enablement, this is quite simply you as the vendor coming in and training. And I would represent it not as sort of a 101 level training, if you will, or a traditional training that perhaps leans towards distribution, but probably somewhere, leaning more towards, again, sort of that VAR level training or VAR partner training, or maybe even somewhere in between. But something that's a little more robust than what we probably see typically when a vendor comes out and does distribution training. And then deliverables from the perspective of a deliverable, we're going to hand you something that covers the budgets, the trends, the drivers, the technological needs and wants of that program or the customers and users, mission objectives, key players, and relevant programs of record. That kind of ties back to the higher level bullets that I walked you guys through from an overview of the program statement earlier. And then the last thing, and right, kind of rubber hits the road, if you will, is make it actionable. How do we create campaigns? Liaise with our marketing team and our partner alignment group, or our channel executives, if you will, around taking the data and the information we get and bringing it downhill. But at the same time, we also go to industry events and attend those, right, to understand directly from the mouth of the end user customers. And typically that's sort of an executive level, right? So mandates or where an agency or department is going. We attend those types of things on a regular basis as well to gather and glean information that becomes relevant for you as a vendor around where you're going to focus and targets, as well as as potential strategy development items. Particular agency lays down a mandate or a walk that they're going to go on. As an example, the Navy this year has come out and said very clearly that going into fiscal 25, they have a specific percentage amount of small business or qualifying, DBE businesses they want to be running their contracts through. So those are just some real case market things. And then next item we're going to go to is what do you get, right? And this kind of goes back to really the crux of the matter. And I'm going to actually hand the mic over now to Zach Hebetz, and he's going to walk you guys down through an example of a deliverable. So Dak, take it away.
Thank you, Trey. I'm going to preface this for everybody that if you happen to cover DISA, there's no need to take screenshots. We'd be happy to sit down with you one-on-one and cover this account in detail from your perspective. I think as we put this program together and started engaging with the end users and our vendors, we've figured out that vendors will always be the SME in the technology it is that you're working with. So if you work for a company that's endpoint security, you're going to know anything and everything there is to know about endpoint security. But there tends to be a gap between that knowledge and the expertise that those OEMs have and what might be going on with that agency. There's always factors that that impact a deal, a procurement that might not be sitting right in front of us, but are kind of off in the periphery, but might have a negative effect. An example I came across earlier today, there was a point product company that was having problems cracking into the DoD because there was a platformized company that was already selling in there, and with that platform approach, they were able to discount bundle products in order to make a total cost of ownership cheaper than if the customer ended up going with the very point product. So along with an example of when we do these deliverables and we start engaging with the vendor, we cover the basics, org structure, budgets, program, very high level information that most folks might know. So it's kind of review, but it's helped sets the stage as we get into the weeds of, okay, now that we have the same foundation upon which we're building, let's start talking about the particular technology, the initiatives, the programs, the drivers that you are specifically solving. So with all that, we're going to walk through it. It's a lot of slides compared to what Trey covered, so I'm going to go relatively fast. No pun intended, but it'll give you a sense of sort of the layout of our deliverables, the tangible item that comes with this. Understanding, right, that this is usually where the engagement starts. Once we provide one of these to one of our OEM partners, um, it's really the kickoff point of, okay, how are we going to divide and conquer? Who's going to handle which target market within that particular customer? So again, it's just the beginning. So as we kind of scroll through here, right, we want to give everybody an understanding of the organization, the structure. Um, this it tends to be organized into two different I don't know, silos, if we want to call it that, that tend to be the gravitation point for a lot of IT companies. Within the overall structure, we'll zero in on a particular piece. So in this case, it's right, looking at the IT stack, kind of who owns which mission objectives, and then it's a way for us to very quickly identify, okay, if we need the Enterprise Integration Innovation Center, we know that that's Roger Greenwell and the staff that sits below him. From there, it's sales 101, trying to get the right person to answer the phone and give a day. Budgets, overall trends, drivers, it gives us a sense. And I mean, I think a continuing resolution now is table stakes in our world. I can't remember the last time we didn't have one. And so looking at colors of money, understanding what a CR really means, and that it's not the end of procurement, right? Until a budget is passed. It just means that as an OEM, you might have to shift your talk track as you're talking to program managers, procurement folks, positioning and acquisition, and taking into account, right, all of those items that might sit on the periphery and how they might be impacting the conversation that you're having with program manager, procurement shop, et cetera. From there, each agency is a little bit different, right? But we try to take that budget and apply it to mission critical items. This is again an interesting one, right? That are essentially managed service for a lot of DoD. And so when you look at the programs and the areas that they're spending money on, huge dollar amounts. I'm sure that all of us would be super happy if we got 1% of the $1.2 billion high capacity data transmission program. But it's understanding sort of where the buckets of money are going. And as you're talking to your program owners, sometimes you're helping them connect the dots of, okay, this is where you're going to be able to go access dollars that are tied to a security as a service solution in order to help disseminate their program objective. Again, diving deeper and kind of looking at org structure and different infrastructure programs from a different view. I think everybody's heard of JRSS, MilCloud 2.0. Again, it's just kind of picking up that Rubik's Cube and looking at it from a bunch of different angles. Kind of fast forwarding here. Once we've covered the very high level, hey, these are all the programs and initiatives that you need to know about, we customize all of these. So when we're looking at it, and again, I'll use the endpoint security product as the example. If you work for a company that specializes in that kind of technology, we're going to customize the upcoming contracts, recompetes, programs of record that we think would be of interest to you. And then, right, as the homework assignment after these, that's where the divide and conquer happens. This is an example. We might take the Enterprise Transport Management 2.0 contract, and maybe you as the OEM want to focus more on folks with a .mil email address. Maybe the FAST team takes a look at GDIT as the incumbent, and the program and capture managers that they have that are focused on that program. And somewhere in the middle, we're going to meet, driving kind of the equation from both sides. So again, all customizable and specific to you and your technology. Once we've kind of covered high level budgets, org structure, taking a look at some of the programs that are going to matter to you, it's a matter of following the money. We always want to understand who the top contractors are, and depending on your technology, we can customize that. Looking at the top IT schedules or contract vehicles, a lot of times you can look at those and you can do a pretty quick analysis of, hey, this particular agency spends a lot of money utilizing Suit. And then you might see a couple of partners on there that have a reputation as being bid board chasers. Pretty easy correlation to make, right? You're not going to get a whole lot of value there. But if you're able to translate the contract vehicles and tie it to whether it's a reseller or system integrator that you know has a reputation for providing value to that agency, then it's just an extra avenue into that particular agency to say, okay, maybe I want to go talk to, again, just as an example, Leidos, because I know that Leidos has got, a really good program set up around infrastructure. And you have a product that's going to help supplement what it is that they're doing. So again, another way of sort of I'll use the Rubik's Cube analogy now. Another way of looking at the Rubik's Cube to figure out where the money's going, and ultimately how to access it. Trey mentioned earlier in the webinar here, but taking a look at, all of the different types of partners and the set-aside standards that they might or might not meet. It's, when you look at a partner strategy and understanding, your partners and your resellers, your system integrators that are going to take your product or solution and move it forward versus the ones that might just be a contractual means to win, right? They both serve their purposes within a broader federal procurement ecosystem, but where you can identify partners and SIs that check both of those boxes, that's kind of utopia. So that's the sort of information that we can help present, identify, and then really get in the weeds on around, which of the partners that do business with this, in this case, do we know are very good at integrating solutions together. So maybe now you're looking at somebody that has a service integration capability. If you're talking to a program manager and they really like your technology, but it meets 7 of the 10 criteria they've got, you're able to find somebody who meets the last 3. Now you've got an integration partner that can put that whole solution together. So it really is, right, as this very incestuous federal IT world tends to be, identifying the right partner within the right account so that they're driving the mission and direction. Another look here at offices, and this time sort of cross-compared against the contract vehicles that they like to utilize. Once we've kind of covered all of the, maybe not basic blocking and tackling, but org, budget, where the money's going, how they're spending it, who's getting that spend, it's then taking a look at the key initiatives. DISA does a good job of publishing their strategy for the next 3 or 4 years. So again, the information starts out relatively high level, with an understanding of sort of their key objectives, what they want to accomplish as an organization. And then from industry's perspective, it's reading between the lines. It's understanding that, the third bullet, key priority, will be fully implemented by 2027. What does that really mean? And sometimes it's the blocking side of, hey, we need to go to industry day and listen to the new head of DISA talk about what he needs to accomplish over the next couple of years in order to meet their zero trust strategy. And so again, the vein of divide and conquer and make sure that your efforts are pointed in the direction that you need to be pointing on, right? We can help partner with the information. I'm going to fast forward through these slides since it's kind of, I mentioned that this is sort of 2 silos. This is bringing all of that together in terms of what they want to accomplish. Common IT environment versus their enterprise cloud environment. Again, it's good information to know, and whilst in some cases it might not apply directly to the solution or the technology that you're trying to sell, it's good to understand that what's going on around a particular project or program that is that we're involved. So again, that connective tissue between you as the expert on your technology and then what it is that's going on within the agency at large. This section here, it tends to be built in 2 different ways. I think Trey gave the example earlier of sort of white space versus, or upsell versus cross-sell, essentially. Plus for myself, looking at where DISA has procured particular types of technology, where they have implemented it, whether it's in production, or one of their test environments. Here we can synthesize and look at the data. Hey, is this a competitive takeout sort of situation? Have you identified somebody within the market that your product is better, faster, more reliable, whatever the case might be, And are we going and we trying to identify where your competition is currently at? Or are we trying to identify where it's a friendly upsell conversation? And that could be from a third party. And just as an example, if your company builds an application on Salesforce or Appian as the platform, maybe you want to know where those OEMs, those technologies are installed so that you've got a much easier jumping off point to try to talk about the application that you built. Um, Maybe it's a conversation around products in your portfolio. If your company acquired somebody or product came out with a new version and a new capability, it's taking a look at the data, figuring out where and how it's being used, and then applying that knowledge. These are just the different divisions within cyber or within DISA, but it's basically the same rundown of understanding who, what, when, where. And last but not least, we have our sort of procurement section, how to do business with that particular agency. This will, and again, every agency being different, some agencies publish their planned procurements. Usually it resides in some sort of small business engagement, part of a website. Sometimes they have a very formal guidelines on, hey, this is how you need to do business with us. You need to go to this website, fill out this form, make sure that your products or you as a vendor are listed on our approved vendor list. All of the X's and O's of what needs to go into that, right? That's what our team helps identify. And then, kind of go down that list and check the boxes as needed. Essentially understanding, right, you've gone through and you've identified the organization, who's got the money, how they're spending it, where they're spending it, which initiatives your technology can apply, problem it can solve. Obviously, lastly, figuring out, how am I actually going to get a purchase order in my hand? That last 10, 20 yards arguably is the hardest. And so this is really the part where the rubber meets the road, if you will, around understanding how that concept, that idea, that solution is going to go from, hey, this is a great idea in the program manager's head to, okay, this is how a contracting officer is going to sign that order and get me what I need to help them with what they need. So with all of that, that brings us to the end of the slides here, end of our webinar. We do have a email here, fastinfo@dlt.com. If you have questions, comments, if you want to engage, I hope you want to engage with us. That is the best way to reach us. Thank you, everybody, for your time today. And with that, we're going to close out. Appreciate it.